Good evening, brethren. Let's begin with NejemYah, normally called Nehemiah. And as you can see here in the Hebrew, NejemYah has Noach at the beginning. So this connects, for instance, NejemYah with Noach, and therefore with the Son of Man, for Yahushua said that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noach. Here we find me, which is in Hebrew who, and as we already know or have said in previous studies, represents the Messiah who reveals who the Father is, as in the four who's of Proverbs 30, chapter 30, verse 4, which we read last week. And here, this will represent the Ruach. So that is just to show that there are important letters and the order in which they are said in the name of NejemYah, because it will be Noach, like the last, who brings rest, the me, that is Mashiach, Yah, which is Yahweh, and the He, which is the Ruach. NejemYah means whom Yahweh comforts, or to whom Yahweh gives rest, because of the Nacham right here, and then the Yah of Yahweh. But like I said, Noach right here, the me, the Yah, and the He for the Ruach. The numerical value of it would be, this is 58 plus 40, 98, plus 10, 108, plus 5, 113 would be the numerical value of NejemYah. First chapter of NejemYah, and it says, the words of NejemYah, son of Hakaliah. Hakaliah is in the concordance as he who Yahweh enlightens. For Haklali, the word Haklali, which would be the root of Hakal, and in fact, let me see here. This is the root Haklali, but as you can see, they also translated it as dull, dark, flashing, brilliant. So that's why they translated also as whom Yahweh enlightens, because of this brilliant right here. But it also, you can see here, dim, becoming dark. And the only time that that word is found in scripture is in Genesis 49:12, when it speaks of the coming of Mashiach through Yahudah. And even kind of mentions part of the last through Mashiach, for we are all in Mashiach and therefore Yahudim. So there's part like a bit of prophecy regarding the last within the prophecy of the first of Genesis 49. So this is the only time that it appears. And it says, his eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. So they wrote red, but it actually means that they will be dim, or they will become dark because of the wine. And when it comes to Mashiach, it could be referring to how he, through giving his blood, he would die. So his eyes would become dark, or he would die by spilling his wine, his blood. Also, he would bring joy, which is represented by the wine. So that will be connected also with the eyes of Mashiach being this color. So this is the only time that this word appears. So it has kind of a couple meanings. I repeat, deemed becoming dark or brilliant. If we see it as becoming dark, it would be connected to the fact that, like I was saying, the name Noah is found within the name NejemYah, and therefore um, it connects his name, at least we'll see about the book, with the end times because of Noah and the days of the Son of Man, like the days of Noah. So, as we know, the Son of Man comes like a thief in the night. So, when it becomes to get, when the earth gets dark in the end times, the darkness, um, obviously, of evil, of the beast, as we are seeing nowadays. But spiritually, Mashiach came when it was still daylight. That's why he said, seek Yahweh while he can be found. For in the end times, because of the lack of faith and because of the darkness within the world, it would be harder unless people accept Yahushua and therefore receive the Ruach HaKodesh in order to understand scripture and the will of the Father. But as we know, the name is hidden, the true doctrine is hidden, and they do everything in order to keep it that way. So there has to be a desire within the person to find it, and Yahweh will lead that person to find it. But that will be the only way. Yahweh is the only one that can reveal it, as well as the person has to have that desire and go for it, really. So we are living in the end times, which are the nighttime, therefore dark. So the fact that Nehemiah, he who brings comfort from Yah, he comes in the nighttime or when it's becoming dark, when it's getting dim because of evil, because he comes like a thief in the night. As we know, Nehemiah has to do with the time when the Persians conquered Babylon and the Yahudim who were exiled to Babel were allowed to go back to Israel, in this case, Jerusalem, and start building the city and the temple. Mainly throughout the book, the wall, which represents the protection of the Ruach that comes to the oil, which is the Ruach, that gives us the understanding of scriptures, and I repeat, through the belief in Mashiach. So also, if we see Hakalia as the one whom Yahweh enlightens, then it will be connected to how the last is given light by Mashiach the first. And also that's why he comes like the son of righteousness, as we see in Malachi 4:2. Mashiach is the light, the last would be a lamp for that light, being like the son of righteousness. So the words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, and it came to be in the month of Kislev, or Kislev, depending on, well, I'll show it here in Hebrew. Here in this translation, they write new moon. Remember last week, I think it was last week, we saw a part in scriptures where they had the name of a month, but referring to the lunar month, which had as a root Yareach, which is moon. And that was to show how there are two words for month, referring one to a lunar month and the other one to the solar month. So in Hebrew, there are two words, one for the lunar month and one for the solar month. Here, since it mentions Kislev, we know that is one of the months of the year of the calendar. And we see here that it says Chodesh, which is the solar month, when the new month begins. It's called Chodesh because Chodesh comes from Chadash, which is new, and each month brings a new energy to the year, as we have also seen in previous studies. So each month has a different energy, meaning what we have to go through spiritually as well as the world. There are like different stages depending on where the sun is during that time and all of that. So Chodesh is what we have here, which is the one used throughout most of scriptures. The other one with the root of the moon, Yareach, appears, I believe, 3 times. So it should say in the month of Kislev. Also, look how this translation doesn't make sense. That's, as I was saying, it says, it doesn't mention exactly the day, but by saying Bechodesh Kislev, it would be saying during the beginning of the month of Kislev. That's why they have here new moon. 2 words. Here we have 1. And we could even say that this refers to the month of Kislev, not necessarily like they're writing here. That's what I was going to say. The fact that they say new moon when it comes to the lunar calendar that the Jewish people follow, which is not the correct one, but it is one that they started to follow actually from the time when they came back from Babylon, which is pretty much this time that we are reading about, and therefore would represent our time when Babylon is about to be conquered, destroyed, the whore of Babylon, as we see in Revelation 17 and 18. So it connects with our time because of what is about to happen to Babylon, because of the name, as we were seeing. And when it comes to this month, this is the month of Hanukkah. That is the month in which Hanukkah is celebrated during the 25th. And as we were seeing, or in the Spanish study at least, it is very possible because of the timing that we see in Daniel and in the book of Revelation, it is very possible that when they decide and are allowed to build the temple in Jerusalem, they might finish it one day before Hanukkah, and therefore might want to inaugurate it on Hanukkah, being a perfect feast for that. So that would be interesting. However, they have a different calendar than ours, but as we were seeing, it would fall right on Hanukkah, our Hanukkah, so they might inaugurate it to fulfill the true calendar without knowing. Or we will see if they use their calendar and then see how it fits with ours. So, and it came to be in the month of Kislev. It says in the 20th year, as I was in the citadel of Shushan. Shushan, which is mentioned in the book of Esther. And it represents it represents in the name, when it comes to the name, it represents Israel because of how Israel is referred to as a Shoshan, a lily, a flower. So in the 20th year, as I was in the citadel of Shushan, that Hanani, one of my brothers, came with men from Yehudah. One of my brothers, Hanani, let's look at this name. Look how here we have Hanan. And the Yud, if we were to add a Hey, we will have NejemYah. If we were to bring the Yud and the Hey to the front, it would be Yohanan. In fact, well, Yahanan, in that case, if we bring it with the Hey. Yahuhanan, if we add the Hey and the Vav that are normally found in the name of in the name of the prophets that have the name of Yahweh within it. The Yud is the first one. Now, in this case, it would be my favor, or he who is favorable, Hanani. But my point being is that it has the same root as you see here, Hanan, the same root as Hananyahu, or Yahu Hanan, known as John the Baptist. So look how the book starts with Nehemiah, who would represent the son of man, because he comes like the days of Noah. And now we find Hanani, which would be connected with John the Baptist or Eliyahu. Therefore, pretty much a reference with the first two names. I mean, the two people that appear there, because we have more names already because of the father of Nehemiah. But the first two names of two people that appear are connected, at least through the names, to the first and the last. In fact, there is an opinion, one opinion might not be right, I want to make that clear. In Judaism, some have the opinion that Nehemiah was Zerubbabel from Zechariah, from the book of Zechariah, Zerubbabel, who was with Yahushua, as a representation of first and last. Zerubbabel is a representation of the last. So at least the connection that they see of Nehemiah with Zerubbabel, that connection, even if they were not the same people, as I guess most people believe because of certain things we see throughout the books when we read carefully, but the connection that they see as to go to the conclusion that they are the same, that connection will be what parallels the last, what the last would do according to what we see in the prophecies. So Nehemiah and now Hanani. I repeat, Hanan, as in Hananyahu, Yahu Hanan. So and Hanani, one of my brothers came with men from Yahudah. I wanted to see something also, just real quick. Kisleu means his confidence. And therefore, so far the names we have would be translated to what I'm about to say. Him whom Yahweh comforts is the one whom Yahweh enlightens. His confidence, which would be connected to the fact that Yahweh is confident that his son would manifest and fulfill his will. Obviously, he's confident because he is all powerful, all knowing. So he would make sure everything works out. And I say that referring to the last, who comes as the prodigal son, which will be represented here. But also remember that the last is called the faithful witness. And that is connected to confidence, as well as the fact that obviously the last must trust Yahweh in order to fulfill his will. So the one whom Yahweh comforts is the one whom Yahweh enlightens his confidence, or the confidence of the lily, Israel, of the flower of Yahweh, who receives the favor and the praise of Yahweh, as well as the instruction of shalom, of peace. So just in these two verses with the names that we have a revelation of the person who comes as the Son of Man with the confidence of Yahweh and having confidence in Yahweh, as well as the confidence that the lily will put in him to receive the favor of the Most High and the praise, or become the praise of Yahweh. But because of the connections, as I was saying, to become favorable, receive the favor of Yahweh, the praise of Yahweh, for Yahweh will see them and say, they are my children, and they were obedient, and they follow Mashiach Yahushua wherever he went, as it is written in Revelation, and then they receive the instruction of Shalom. So this would be obviously a great message for our time, even though this was connected, like I said, to a time of darkness. Yahweh will bring light. And I didn't mention that part of the interpretation of the name as darken or getting deemed. But I'll say it just one more time. The person that Yahweh comforts with, obviously the Ruach HaKodesh, would come in the time that Yahweh allows the world to get dark, to bring confidence to Israel, to the congregation, let's put it that way, for them to receive the favor and the praise of Yahweh, as well as the instruction of Shalom, the true doctrine. So, I repeat, great message. So I'll continue with the reading. That Hanani, one of my brothers, came with men from Yehudah. Just a second. That Hanani, one of my brothers, came with men. If anything, that image that was there, I don't know if you were seeing it. It's from a video that brother, I think it was Jay who sent it, about Noah, the story of Noah. Still gotta check it out. So Hanani, one of my brothers, came with men from Yehudah, and I asked them concerning the Yahudim who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, and well, look how it says, concerning the Yahudim who had escaped. Remember that Yahudim refers to one tribe, but when we speak about the 12 tribes, but in Genesis 49, they were told that we would eventually be called by that name, no matter where each of us came from, meaning which tribe, because of the fact that we would all be connected to Mashiach, Yahushua, who came from Yehudah. So we would all become Yahudim spiritually, because we will be the praise of Yahweh. We will praise Yahweh for everything that he is doing, has done, and will do eternally. So since once you are in Yahushua HaMashiach, you are a Yahudi. When it comes to the spirit, this refers to the Yahudim in the end times, as for instance, when Mashiach says in Matthew 24, Luke 17, and Mark 13, when you see the abomination of desolation in the place where it should not be, he who read and may understand. Well, also mentions, well, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel in the place where it shouldn't be, let him who read understand. Those who are in Yehudah run to the mountains. Of the three parts, because I mentioned three good news or gospels in which that verse is found, one of the three doesn't mention Yehudah, because it refers to anybody wherever they may be physically, geographically, but who may be spiritually in Mashiach, Yahushua, therefore are Yehudah. And I say that because even though it says those who are in Yehudah run to the mountains, which in that case, in the literal sense, it would be referring to those who are closest to the temple will be in greater danger. But everybody should flee to the mountains. That's why one of the Gospels doesn't mention those who are in Yehudah. But another sign of the fact that it is necessary to flee no matter where you are is that Yahushua mentions that you must flee, because then the beast, the army, would go to each house and will take one and leave one there. So that takes us to the fact that Mashiach spoke of three people: one who flees to the mountains, two who stay, whether at work or at home, and one is taken, one is left behind. And I say it like that because, as we know, that last part is what they use to speak of the doctrine of the rapture, which is, that is pretty much the worst verse that they could use from scripture to talk about the rapture as they do, because that verse speaks of those who will be taken to be killed for not taking the mark of the beast. And that is from the answer that Yahushua gives his disciples when they asked, where are they taken? So Mashiach said, wherever you see the vultures, there their dead bodies will be. That dead body is found in Matthew 24 because they translated different in the other parts. So they have a different doctrine because of that wrong translation, but you can research it in the concordance and you will see that it's talking about a corpse, not just a body as they translate it. It's a corpse. So that's why in Matthew it says dead body. But my point with this is that there, when Yahweh says, well, Yahushua says that one will be taken and one will be left, it says that two will be in bed at night, asleep. One will be taken, one will be left. Two will be at work during the day. And Mashiach said that it would happen at the same time. So if Mashiach speaks of some being taken at night and some being taken during the day at the same time, that refers to something that will be worldwide, as it can now happen, of course. Because as we know, while right here is nighttime, on the other side of the world is daytime. So that fact, we find it in those verses of Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 17. I say all of that because we see here that it says, and I asked them concerning the Yahudim who had escaped, as in the chosen few from Yahudah who fled to the mountains, as Mashiach said, which is the second Exodus. Something else that I was saying is that when the people of Israel separated in two after Shlomo, 10 tribes went one way to the north, and then 2 tribes to the south, or remained there because those were their lands. But I mean, north and south were the 2 sides of Israel, and they were called Israel, those of the north, and Yahudah, those of the south. So because of those of the north were 10 tribes, there were obviously many more than those of the south. So the 10 tribes throughout scriptures represent the many who will have to die in the end times and then be resurrected because of their testimony in their hearts of Mashiach, who died for their sins, which they believe. Yet the few, represented by the term Yahudah, has to do with those who not only have the testimony, but also accept the 2 witnesses and confess, obviously, the name of Yahushua as Savior, as it is written in Romans 10 that it is needed for salvation. In Romans 10:10. So the many, through their belief in their heart, receive justification, and the few, through also the confession, receive salvation. So when I asked them concerning the Yahudim who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem, and they said to me, the remnant who are left of the captivity in the province are there in great evil and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So, like I said, this is the time when Babel was conquered, and Israel, or the Yahudim, were allowed to rebuild everything in Jerusalem. Yet, in that time, there was still, they were still in danger because of, well, pretty much what we are going to read throughout the book. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I wanted to show here how they're called the remnant, as in the chosen few who will be the remnant. That's what they are called in several parts of scriptures, mainly in Yeshayahu, Isaiah. But look how it says, who are left of the captivity in the province are there in great evil and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. As it will happen when the Gentiles get 42 months to trodden down the set apart city, as we see in Revelation 11. So it says, and it came to be when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned for many days. And I was fasting and praying before the Elohim of the heavens. And I said, I pray, Yahweh Elohim of the heavens, O great and awesome El, guarding the covenant and loving commitment with those who love you and with those guarding your commands. Please let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your servant, which I am praying before you now, day and night, for the children of Israel, your servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Both my father's house and I have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you and have not guarded the commands, nor the laws, nor the right rulings which you commanded your servant Moshe. Look how here Nehemiah, after receiving news of the remnant having issues, being in danger, which is interesting because I repeat, we are entering dangerous times. And I know a lot of the people from the congregation are going through some trials, or their their faith is being tested. And it's part of the end times. It's part of what we read in scriptures that had to happen. But look how now Nehemiah here starts to fast and pray, being an intercessor for Israel, just like Mashiach is right at the right hand of the Father praying for us. In this case, with what I was saying, it will be connected also to the fact that the two witnesses will manifest. And in this case, Nehemiah would be praying to Yahweh through Yahushua, the name of Yahushua, who is the intercessor, in order to receive an answer and help for the chosen few who are finding themselves being tested by what is happening in the world, which is, as it was said here, in great evil. So Nehemiah confesses the sins of the people of Israel. So we see as the last, I repeat, becoming a representation of the whole people of Israel in order to bring the prayer as the mouthpiece. That's why he's called the prophet, the witness like Moshe. Since the chosen few are the body, each one has a part. In this case, Nehemiah would be like the mouth, praying for the whole body to Yahweh in order for Yahweh to act and help his people. So look how now it mentions Moshe, which is important because it makes reference to Nehemiah being like Moshe, for he's trying to bring everybody back to what Moshe taught them. So Nehemiah as a witness like Moshe. So we have acted corruptly against you, as in the apostasy of the past 2,000 years, and have not guarded the commands, nor the laws, nor the right rulings which you commanded your servant Moshe. Please remember the word that you commanded your servant Moshe, saying, if you trespass, I shall scatter you among the peoples, which has already happened. This happened with us, just like for a moment, for 70 years happened with Israel, and now they were free from Babylon, but they were still in danger, I repeat, as we read. And it is like, for instance, the fact that the chosen few have been freed from the second death through Mashiach, through what he did. But now we are found in this end times, which is the night, spiritually speaking. So people are not seeing a lot of light from the Father because of it is nighttime, I repeat. But Yahweh promised that he would come like a thief in the night. So the fact that it's getting so dark should actually, for those who know their Father, Yahweh, should be a something to bring them hope. And I know that's why we are given the peace that surpasses all understanding, because to the people of the world, that will make no sense. But that is because they have no hope. We know what is going to happen, because he who promised what will happen is the one who told us that all of these things that are happening would happen. In every sense of, everything that he said is happening. And obviously, there's more to come. So look how it says, if you trespass, which our people did, I shall scatter you among the peoples. That's why we are all over the place nowadays, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. That's why there has to be a second Exodus. But if you shall turn back to me, which we are doing, and we have been doing, but we need to be more for everything to be fulfilled. So, but if you shall turn back to me and guard my commands and do them, though you were cast out to the end of the heavens, I shall gather them from there and bring them to the place which I have chosen to make my name dwell there. To make my name dwell there. That refers to the fact that Yahweh, I mean, in the literal sense, would put his name in the temple because his name is his presence. That's why it was fulfilled when the spirit of Yahweh entered a body, that being a temple, a human body, the temple of Yahweh. So he placed his name in that temple. And that's why Mashiach said, I come in the name of my Father and you do not receive me. That's why the name Yahweh, it's in the name Yahushua. Also, that would also be referring to the fact that eventually Mashiach will dwell there. For Mashiach is the personification of his name. That is verse 9. It says, Leshachen, I have chosen, or here, which I have chosen to dwell, for my name, to dwell my name there. Pretty much it would be in the literal sense, but obviously it's for my name to dwell there. But my point here is that le shachen is shachan is he dwelt, and that is the root of mishkan. If we add, or if we were to change this lamet for a mem, we would have mishkan. I say that because the mishkan was what they call the tabernacle, which was raised up the first of Aviv, just like it all points to Mashiach being born that day, as John 1 points to by using this same verb when Yahweh decided to dwell with men. So he made a Mishkan, just like the tabernacle. And that's why Mashiach said, destroy the temple, because his body is the temple. To make my name dwell there. And they are your servants and your people, whom you have ransomed by your great power and by your strong hand. Your great power and by your strong hand. That's verse 10. Oh Yahweh, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name. Once again, in the chapter, twice mention the importance of the name, like first and last. Just like here, it says your great power, which is Mashiach the first. That's why we can do all things through Mashiach who strengthens us, represented by the arm. And then it says your strong hand, which is the last. First and last, arm and hand. In this case, Yahweh changes arm with hand, with great power, just like in the arm, you see the biggest muscles, that give strength to the hand. So the great power referring to the arm, referring to Mashiach the first. Also, I was going to say something. You have ransomed by your great power, just like through Mashiach, he redeemed us, being Mashiach, the lamb, as in the lamb of the Exodus. And by your strong hand, I repeat, like the last, who is strong through Mashiach, the great power. And also, yeah, what I was going to say is that Chokmah is wisdom. And if you rearrange one letter, you would have the power of the what, which will be seen as the power of asking brings you to wisdom. But also has to do with the wisdom that is brought to us through the Ruach HaKodesh, which comes in the name of Yahushua. So wisdom comes through Yahushua. As we know, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. So when we truly fear Yahweh in the sense of we love, respect, honor the Most High Yahweh, our Creator, then He reveals Himself to us by showing us His Son, His image. So my point is that Chogma is connected to the power. So great power makes reference to wisdom as well. And that was in the verse 10, and you see it here. Koach, that is power. This is the with, and this is the your. So with your power, which is great. So Hagadol, the great. So then, oh Yahweh, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name. So we see the importance of fearing, respecting his name, yet they say it doesn't matter because of their deceitful heart. So it says, into the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name. Not only they fear your name, they delight, they love to fear his name, for they know, the servants of Yahweh, how powerful and everything that, well, perhaps not yet, but much of what it means to respect and honor his name and invoke him directly instead of through false names, which would lead us to false spirits, for each word is a spirit. And to the prayer of your servants who delight to fear your name. And let your servant prosper this day. And let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him compassion in the presence of these men. For I was a cupbearer to the sovereign. For I was a cupbearer to the sovereign. So look how interesting that he was the one who prepared the wine for the king, the cupbearer. And as we saw, he was the son of Hakaliah, which comes from Haklali, which is the word mentioned referring Mashiach, who would come with red eyes or dim or darkened eyes because of the wine, which I repeat has reference to several things. Not going to get into that too much. But look how the name of the father of Nehemia, which is mentioned here, is connected to the coming of Mashiach to give his blood and to bring joy through his sacrifice, meaning the fact that people would receive eternal life through his blood. So interesting that it says here, for I was a cupbearer. So he was connected to wine. Also, Mashiach, the first miracle that he did was turn water into wine. And that was actually a manifestation of something that the Jewish people were expecting. And I say Jewish in the sense that they didn't see it, they still don't see it, and they reject him. And that is that in Judaism, they have a belief that depending on how good or how bad the Jewish people are, Yahweh would send Mashiach with mercy or with judgment, punishment. And they said that if Mashiach comes and turns water into wine, then that means that he's bringing mercy. But if he turns water into blood, then that means he's bringing punishment. So they saw the prophecies and they came to a wrong interpretation that leads them to believe that is one or the other, not understanding that all scripture is true, all will be fulfilled, like Mashiach himself said it. And that means that there will be two times in which he would manifest, one for mercy, one for judgment. When Mashiach came, he turned water into wine to show that he was bringing mercy. In Revelation 11, we see that the two witnesses have the power to turn water into blood. That means that the witness like Moshe is bringing judgment. So we see here a connection for Nehemiah was a cupbearer. Not only that, remember that Mashiach, when he was going to be sacrificed, he said to pass the cup. So in a spiritual sense, Mashiach had the cup, which represented his sacrifice. And he wanted to give it to the witness like Moshe without him drinking it. But then he said, let your will be done. And the will of the Father was that the first needed to be sacrificed for the last to be able to perform his sacrifice as well. So Mashiach had to die, so he had to drink that cup. Then that cup would be given to the witness like Moshe, and then he would give it to the witness like Eliyahu. That's why when the two disciples, Yahuchanan and Yaakov, or John and James, went to talk to Mashiach about them being given the right and the left in the kingdom, right and left of Mashiach, they were hoping to be sitting at the right and the left of Mashiach. And Mashiach told them that they could not receive that because that was already given to two people by the Father. And also he told them, can you drink from the same cup that I'm about to drink, referring to his sacrifice? And they said that they would. And in fact, they eventually did as apostles. Well, not John, James. John was taken to jail and other things. I mean, some say that he died in jail. Some say that he actually was allowed to go out of jail and eventually died of old age. But obviously, he was willing to give his life. In fact, he was willing to give his life, but Mashiach tells us that, in other words, that John wouldn't have to. But obviously, he gave his life in the sense of, while he was alive, Mashiach was working through him and he was working for Mashiach. So, the fact that the cup represents the sacrifice, just like when Yosef drank from the cup, representing Mashiach dying for sins, and then he put the cup in Benjamin's sack, pretty much. And when he went away, then they blamed Benjamin of being a thief. Benjamin was the last of the 12 that Jacob had. So Benjamin, in that sense, represents the last, the witness like Moshe. That's why Joseph took the cup and gave it to Benjamin, and he was called a thief, because the last comes like a thief in the night to get the cup from Mashiach and drink from it, and therefore giving also his life. So the fact that Nehemiah was a cupbearer is connected to the last taking the cup from Mashiach with the wine, with his blood, to become one with him and also give his blood. I was a cupbearer to the sovereign, which could be taken as to Yahweh, or obviously also to Mashiach, as I was saying. For the last is a messenger of the first, just like the first is a messenger of Yahweh. We see in Revelation 22 that Yahushua is sending his messenger. In the Hebrew culture, the messenger represents he who sent them in every way. That's why when Philip asked Mashiach to show him the Father, Mashiach said, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. That was the end of the remnant connects with the remnant of the seed of the woman that the beast will go after, correct? Well, the word remnant makes reference normally throughout prophecy to the few. That's why they're a remnant. There are the few that are left alive, the ones that did not die. Now, when it comes to Revelation 12, when the chosen few are taken away, then the beast, his army, goes after the rest, meaning, or the remnant, meaning those who remain on earth who were not taken by Yahweh and who are not accepting the mark of the beast. So that's why there's a similarity when it comes to those words, but they become a remnant. I repeat, once the true remnant, the chosen few who do not die, are taken. So the fact that it says they were in great evil obviously kind of connects with the many, for they will have to die eventually.